Imagine ripping out the old lumbering power source in your factory. Like you install the absolute most advanced technology in human history.
Right, a total massive upgrade.
Exactly. And then you just stand there and watch your productivity stay completely flat. And I don't mean for a month or a year. I mean for 30 entire years.
Which sounds completely insane today.
It does. But that is exactly what happened in the 1890s. And honestly, it's dangerously close to what is happening in your office right now with generative AI.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we are seeing the exact same historical pattern play out right in front of us. The underlying technology undergoes this massive revolution, but
Not the actual organizational structure, right? The structure built to harness it.
yeah, it remains entirely unchanged. You end up with a fundamentally mismatched system. It just doesn't work.
Which is really the core focus of our deep dive today. If you were listening to this right now, whether you are a C-suite executive, a department manager, or, a business operations expert trying to navigate this daily reality of enterprise AI,
You know this frustration intimately. You live it.
literally every day,
Yeah.
you are trying to turn AI into a genuine force multiplier.
Yeah.
But your daily experience probably feels like a massive disconnect between those magical demos you see online and the actual measurable revenue outcomes in your quarterly reports.
Yeah, you have these individual employees who claim they feel like 10 times more productive.
Oh, totally. They're flying through tasks.
Right, but the company as a whole is clearly not becoming 10 times more valuable. I mean, the math simply isn't adding up at the enterprise level.
It really isn't. So to figure out where all that productivity is actually going, we are synthesizing two phenomenal sources today.
We've got some great material.
We do. The foundational theory comes from this really provocative essay by George Civolka. It's called Institutional Intelligence, Redesigning the Modern Factory for AI.
Such a good piece.
It really is. And to ground that theory, we're combining it with a dispatch from Rotem Yarkoni. She's a manager who recently took to LinkedIn to just outline the raw, on-the-ground struggles of AI implementation.
The real-world headaches, basically.
Exactly. So our mission today is to outline the actual blueprint for how you redesign your corporate factory to capture real value.
Let's start with that 1890s factory analogy from Civolka's essay, actually, because, well, understanding the mechanism of that failure really changes how you view your current org chart.
It blew my mind when I first read it.
Right. So back in the 1890s, the great textile mills of New England were entirely structured around the rotational power of massive steam engines.
Okay.
And they used this huge system of line shafts and belts to literally distribute power across the entire factory floor.
So the physical architecture of the building and like the layout of the workers, it was dictated entirely by the limitations of steam.
Completely dictated by it. So then electricity arrives, and it is undeniably a superior technology.
Obviously.
Right. So the factory owners naturally assumed, oh, we can just pull out the central steam engine, drop a massive electric motor in its place, connect it to the exact same system of belts and shafts, and just watch our profits soar.
But that didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen at all. The factory saw almost zero increase in output for 3 decades. I mean, the technology is better, but the factory's operating system was still rooted in the past.
Right. The breakthrough didn't actually happen until the 1920s. And what fascinates me here is the how. Like how they fixed it.
Yeah, what did they do?
They didn't just buy better electric motors. They fundamentally dismantled the entire concept of the factory.
They started over.
Basically, they got rid of the central power belts entirely. They introduced assembly lines. And they engineered what were called unit drives.
Okay, wait, explain unit drives for a second.
So unit drive is essentially putting a tiny specialized electric motor inside every single individual piece of equipment.
Oh, wow. So no more central belts at all.
None. They completely reorganized the humans around the new capabilities of the machines rather than forcing the machines to conform to the old layout.
That structural redesign was the actual catalyst.
Right.
That is when the massive financial returns finally materialize.
Yeah.
And if we look at the enterprise AI landscape today, I mean, most organizations are still operating in the 1890s.
We really are.
We've handed everyone a phenomenally powerful AI engine, say, like a premium enterprise license for ChatGPT or Claude.
Right. Everyone gets a login.
Everyone gets a login. But we've kept the old system of belts and line shafts. We haven't redesigned the workflow at all. We're simply injecting raw torque into an antiquated system.
Yeah, I kept thinking about this operational mismatch while reading the sources. It's like, okay, let's unpack this. If you take a beautifully crafted 19th century horse-drawn carriage
Okay, I'm picturing it.
and you just bolt a Formula One racing engine to the front of it,
That's a disaster waiting to happen.
you haven't created a better car. I mean, the engine has thousands of horsepower, but those wooden wagon wheels are going to splinter into a million pieces the absolute second you hit the gas.
Because the infrastructure just cannot handle the output.
Exactly. And you see this present-day managerial reality perfectly described in Rotem Yarkoni's LinkedIn post.
Yeah, her post was really eye-opening.
It was. She illustrates this tension so well. I mean, she's operating in this incredibly high-stakes environment, balancing her professional life in Israel with civilian and reserve duty.
Right, a lot going on.
A ton. Yet the core organizational headache she highlights is entirely universal for business leaders right now. She points out this massive chasm between the magic of AI on social media and the actual reality of the enterprise.
Oh, the Instagram AI gurus.
Exactly. She notes how easy it is for an influencer to show off like doing 5 hours of coding or writing in 5 seconds.
Right, they make a quick video and it looks like magic.
But enterprise reality isn't just about raw speed. A real business requires strict data security, privacy compliance, brand consistency, and just incredibly complex process controls.
And when an organization simply hands out AI licenses without doing that structural redesign we talked about, you get a phenomenon that feels highly productive on an individual level, but is just absolute chaos on a macro level.
Yeah, total chaos.
And Savoca identifies the first major failure point here as a lack of coordination.
So this part actually challenged my assumptions a bit, because Savoca poses this thought experiment. Imagine if you could clone your absolute best, top-performing enterprise architect 50 times over.
Sounds like a dream.
Right. At first glance, that sounds like a manager's ultimate fantasy. If I have 50 brilliantly productive people, I assume I'm going to get 50 times the output.
But that assumption is flawed because it relies on the idea that highly competent agents just naturally align themselves.
Which they don't.
No, the physics of organizational behavior dictate otherwise. Highly intelligent, capable people, or highly capable AI models, for that matter, have their own methodologies.
Yeah, their own frameworks, their own ways of solving problems.
Exactly. So if you clone that top performer 50 times, but you don't build a rigid, localized management layer to actually coordinate them, you don't get 50x output.
What do you get?
You just get 50 brilliant people designing completely conflicting architectures.
Oh, man. I actually found a metaphor helpful here to visualize what's happening in company Slack channels right now.
Let's hear it.
Imagine an orchestra. You have 50 virtuoso violinists, and you give them all like a stimulant that allows them to play incredibly fast.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't give them any sheet music, and you remove the conductor.
That sounds awful.
You are not going to get a masterpiece. You are going to get an agonizing wall of noise, and the faster they play, the worse it sounds.
Wow. Yeah. And the corporate equivalent of that noise is what we are seeing today with employees essentially productivity maxing.
Productivity maxing.
Every single employee is developing their own idiosyncratic AI habits. One person uses a highly specific prompting style in Claude to generate project updates. Another uses a completely different framework in ChatGPT.
And the outputs just don't integrate.
They don't. The data structures are incompatible. I mean, the oars are moving incredibly fast, but the boat is just spinning in circles.
So how do we engineer the sheet music and the conductor for this new factory? Because we clearly need one.
Well, Savoca points to the emergence of what he calls agentic management.
Okay, explain agentic management for the folks listening.
So agentic management shifts the leadership focus. Instead of just managing human outputs, operations professionals must engineer the interplay between specialized AI agents and human workers.
Okay, so what does that look like practically on a Tuesday morning?
Right, let's look at a traditional setup first. An employee gets an email, reads it, asks an AI to draft a response, edits it, and sends it. Pretty standard.
Right, that's what everyone's doing right now.
But in an agentic management system, the workflow is strictly gated.
Gated.
Yes. So Agent A is programmed solely to classify incoming emails based on urgency. That's all it does.
Okay, so it's specialized.
Exactly. Then Agent B is triggered only if the email requires, say, a refund, and it pulls data directly from the CRM. Then Agent C checks the drafted response against company policy.
Wow, okay.
And the human manager is coordinated into the flow only at the very final approval stage.
So the agents are constrained by strict parameters. They have well-defined swim lanes and overarching organizational targets like OKRs, objectives, and key results.
Precisely. They aren't just brainstorming buddies sitting in a chat window. They are literal cogs in a larger engineered machine.
I love that. But if you lack that coordination layer, if your uncoordinated employees are just rowing in different directions at 10 times their normal speed, you run into the second major structural failure.
Which is the sheer volume of output. It creates a completely new operational bottleneck.
Yeah, and this leads us to the concept of signal versus noise. Savoca uses a term for the noise that I think perfectly captures the modern manager's dilemma.
Slop. Slop. It's such a visceral word.
It really is.
But it's accurate. Slop is the natural byproduct of the cost of generation dropping to near zero.
Right, because historically the bottleneck in business was always creation. Sitting down, analyzing the data, writing the strategic essay, formatting the spreadsheet, designing the slide deck.
It was hard work.
It took time and effort, which naturally limited the amount of material a company produced. You just couldn't make that much stuff.
But today, the friction of creation is completely gone.
Completely.
Any employee can generate a beautifully formatted 40-page strategic analysis in, about 30 seconds?
Yeah, barely. And the danger is that this material looks professional, but it often lacks deep, factual, organizational value.
It is voluminous, but it's hollow.
Hollow, exactly. And the problem has actually become so acute that the Savoca, who, by the way, runs an AI company himself, he strictly bans his own executive team from using AI to generate final written products.
I mean, an AI CEO banning his executives from handing him AI-generated documents.
That tells you everything you need to know about the severity of the slop problem.
It really does.
There was this private equity example in the text that really put this shift into perspective for me. It illustrates how the fundamental nature of knowledge work is changing from creation to curation.
Oh, that's a great example. Let's consider the mechanics of that private equity scenario.
Walk us through it.
So, a few years ago, an investment manager might have received, say, 10 potential deal memos in a given quarter.
Okay.
And because those memos required hundreds of human hours to prepare, the manager actually had the time and the cognitive bandwidth to carefully review all 10, evaluate the fundamentals, and select the one truly viable investment.
But next quarter, because of generative AI, that same manager isn't going to get 10 deal memos.
No, they are going to receive 50 or maybe 100.
Right. And every single one of those pitches is going to be polished to absolute grammatical and structural perfection by an AI.
Oh, they'll look amazing.
The financial projections will be rendered in beautiful charts. The executive summaries will be incredibly persuasive. Everything will look like a slam dunk.
But the manager still only has the exact same number of hours in the day.
They haven't gained any time.
Right. So the actual signal, the one truly viable business deal, is now completely buried under an avalanche of perfectly formatted noise.
The slop.
The slop. And the cognitive load required to verify which of those 50 beautiful documents contains actual, verifiable business truth. It's just exhausting.
So if you are managing a team right now, ask yourself, how much of your day has silently shifted toward this type of verification?
A huge percentage, I'd bet.
Oh, totally. Like, how much time are you spending just trying to figure out if the perfectly written report on your desk is a hallucination or an actual factual breakthrough?
To solve this, the factory redesign requires a major shift. We have to move from non-deterministic models to deterministic agents.
Okay, we definitely need to explain the mechanics here, because this is crucial for institutional intelligence.
It's the core of it. So right now, most enterprise users are interacting with non-deterministic chatbots.
Like your standard ChatGPT window.
Exactly. You type a prompt into a foundational model, and it uses probabilistic math to predict the next word. It is highly creative, it explores unpredictable pathways, and it might give you a slightly different answer every single time you ask the exact same question.
Which is great if you are, I don't know, brainstorming marketing copy.
Right.
But it is absolutely terrifying if you are auditing a supply chain.
Precisely the issue. Institutional AI must be deterministic. It must act as a load-bearing, rigid filter.
The filter?
Okay, yeah. A deterministic agent isn't a conversational partner. It is a gated workflow. Imagine an AI designed to review those 50 private equity memos we just talked about.
Right.
Instead of just summarizing them, it is programmed with a strict 40-point financial stress test. It extracts the EBITDA margins and cross-references them against a locked historical database.
Oh, wow.
And if the numbers don't match, the agent literally blocks the memo from moving forward. It rejects the slop before it ever reaches the human manager's desk. It forces friction back into the process.
Forcing friction back into the process. That is such a fascinating concept, especially because I feel like we have spent the last 3 years celebrating how AI removes friction.
Right, that was the whole selling point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that actually leads to another really interesting realization about human psychology. Because the danger isn't just that employees are generating too much text.
No, it's deeper than that.
It is the psychological impact of interacting with a machine that literally never tells them their ideas are bad.
This is perhaps the most insidious operational risk inside the modern enterprise today.
I agree.
We are talking about the problem of bias, and specifically the toxic reality of the AI yes man.
Yeah, because for a long time, the public conversation around AI bias was super heavily focused on sociopolitical issues, right?
Right, making sure models didn't output harmful or highly offensive content.
Exactly. And to solve that, the AI labs utilized a training mechanism called RLHF, which stands for Reinforcement Learning from Human Feedback.
And basically, the labs use human testers to reward the models for being polite, helpful, and agreeable.
They essentially optimize the algorithms to be the ultimate, like, customer service representatives.
Yes, but in an enterprise setting, that over-alignment backfires completely. The models have been trained to be sycophants.
Total yes men.
It has actually become a running joke in the industry. Like, the reflexive habit of models like Claude to just respond with, "That is a brilliant insight, you are absolutely right."
Even when you feed it a deeply flawed business strategy.
Exactly. It feels harmless, even validating in the moment. But consider the organizational implications here.
It's scary.
Good management requires healthy friction. It requires someone to stress test assumptions and point out flaws. When you remove that friction, you inflate confidence without actually increasing competence.
Oof. That's a great way to put it.
And Savolka makes a really sharp observation here. He says the loudest, most aggressive AI advocates inside an organization might very soon be the historically worst performing employees.
Let's unpack the psychology of that because it's wild. An underperforming employee generally doesn't get a lot of positive reinforcement from their human managers, right?
No, they don't.
They are accustomed to having their proposals rejected or heavily edited. But now they have an artificial superintelligence sitting right on their desktop.
Just waiting to agree with them.
And every single time they pitch an idea to this ASI, it responds with overwhelming enthusiasm.
So the employee sits there thinking, the most sophisticated intelligence ever created completely agrees with my strategy. My human manager must just be a roadblock.
Which creates these localized echo chambers that totally destroy organizational alignment.
It fuels division because the employee truly believes their unvetted, terrible ideas have been validated by an infallible machine.
So how do you practically combat an AI that is actively inflating your worst employee's ego? I mean, we can't just tell managers to argue louder than the AI.
No, that won't work. We have to look at the structural safeguards human organizations have relied on for centuries.
Like what?
Well, we built systems of objectivity specifically to counteract human overconfidence. Think about third-party financial auditors, or boards of directors, or investment committees.
Right, people whose job is literally to say no.
Exactly. Organizations rarely collapse because their employees lack confidence. They collapse because no one in the room has the authority or the data to say no.
Okay, so since individual AI tools are designed to never say no, institutional AI must be explicitly engineered to play the role of the disciplined skeptic.
Yes. We need to design AI that operates as an internal auditor. Imagine an agent specifically programmed to red team a strategy memo before it is ever submitted to the leadership team.
I love that.
It isn't trained to flatter the user. It is programmed to interrogate the reasoning, surface historical failures, and strictly enforce corporate standards. We essentially need AI board members that push back against the human user.
That is a massive paradigm shift. I mean, we have spent all our energy trying to get AI to do things for us.
Yeah.
And now we are realizing that a mature enterprise actually needs AI to actively challenge us.
It is the only way to maintain objectivity at scale. You really have to synthesize these three solutions to build the new factory.
Recap them for us.
Sure, you need agentic management to coordinate the workflows. You need deterministic agents to filter the massive volume of slop. And you need objective AI no-men to pierce those psychological echo chambers.
But fixing the foundation is really only half the battle, right? Once you stop the bleeding, once you eliminate the chaos, the noise, and the sycophancy, how do managers actually leverage this redesigned factory to generate real value?
Right, how do you actually make money off this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Savolka's ultimate focus, securing an edge and driving outcomes.
This is the transition from treating AI as a cool novelty to treating it as a core business driver.
Yeah.
And Savolka points out a pretty harsh reality about the tools most companies are currently using.
Let's hear it.
If your entire AI strategy consists of just buying everyone a subscription to a general foundation model, you are simply paying for a widely available commodity.
Right, because if every single one of your competitors has the exact same access to the exact same general intelligence, it by definition cannot give you a competitive advantage.
It can't.
It just becomes the new baseline cost of doing business.
Exactly. True business value is generated by purpose-built tools that drive a highly specific operational edge.
Not general tools.
Right. A general model is designed to be reasonably good at everything. But a purpose-built institutional AI is engineered to be peerless at one specific thing.
The sources highlight several examples of this where depth just totally beats breadth. Like, if a creative agency wants the absolute best designed imagery, they don't use a general text bot, right?
No, they integrate Midjourney into their workflow.
Exactly. That allows a small marketing team to generate 100 high-fidelity variants of an ad campaign overnight, testing them instantly.
Or if a gaming studio needs dynamic voice acting, they use 11 Labs.
Right. Or if an enterprise needs full-stack, secure customer service resolution, they use a specialized platform like Decagon.
These specialized applications define the absolute frontier of what is possible in their specific niches. And in the enterprise, that niche advantage is everything.
It's a whole ballgame.
It really is, because if a capability is widespread, the market instantly prices it in. You cannot beat your competitors with a commodity. But if a custom-built, deterministic institutional AI gives your supply chain an ephemeral 1% efficiency edge over the market,
you can leverage that 1% edge into massive, multi-million-dollar outcomes.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the ultimate executive truth that Savolka shares about selling AI to the enterprise. When you ask a CEO whether their primary strategic priority is cutting costs or scaling revenue,
the answer is almost always scaling revenue.
Always. Yet, if you look at how AI is currently marketed and deployed, almost all of it is focused on the cost side of the ledger.
It is. It promises to save time, reduce human hours spent on menial tasks, or, let you do more with less overhead.
And this circles perfectly back to Rhoda Miarconi's real-world observations from her LinkedIn post. She noted that AI, in its current uncoordinated state, primarily just saves her people time.
Right, it's time saver.
But the gap between an employee saying, hey, I finished this spreadsheet 2 hours faster, and the company saying, we captured a new market segment and generated more revenue.
That is a massive operational chasm.
It's
You
huge.
can really synthesize the entire philosophy of this redesign right here. Individual AI is a tool for cost cutting. It saves an employee 2 hours a day.
Which is nice.
It is helpful, sure, but it doesn't change the trajectory of the company. Institutional AI, on the other hand, is a structural transformation. It re-engineers the business process to capture that niche advantage, which is then deployed to actually scale revenue.
That distinction really crystallizes the journey we have been on during this deep dive. Let's just look at the blueprint we've uncovered today. We are currently operating in the 1890s of the generative AI revolution. We have these incredibly powerful new motors humming on our desks, but our corporate structures are still completely built for the steam age.
And to reach the massive productivity gains of the 1920s, organizational leaders have to stop allowing employees to just individually productivity max in isolated silos.
Because speed without direction is just chaos.
Exactly, it's just noise.
You have to build the sheet music and hire the conductor. You must implement agentic management to ensure specialized AI tools and human workers are coordinated toward the exact same OKRs.
Right.
You need to deploy deterministic, gated workflows that act as rigid filters, protecting your human decision makers from just drowning in a sea of perfectly formatted AI slop.
And you have to engineer systems of friction.
Right, the AI auditors that challenge assumptions rather than just flattering bad ideas.
And above all, you have to transition your focus from buying general commodities that merely save time to investing in purpose-built edges that actually scale revenue.
It is a monumental operational challenge, but it leads to a truly fascinating implication that, well, I want to leave the listener to explore this on their own.
Yeah.
We've talked entirely about how managers must redesign the systems to control the AI.
I sense a pivot coming.
Oh, definitely. Think about the logical endpoint of this whole redesign. If we actually succeed in building true institutional intelligence, a future factory where AI acts as the flawless coordinator of daily tasks, where it's the meticulous deterministic auditor filtering out the noise, and the objective red teamer keeping all the human employees perfectly aligned with corporate strategy.
Right.
What happens to the traditional role of the human middle manager?
That is a profound question. Because if the system is doing all the coordinating, the filtering, and the aligning...
Exactly the point. If the newly redesigned factory essentially manages its own workflows, perhaps your next great leadership challenge won't be managing the day-to-day tasks of human employees at all.
Your role will elevate.
It will. You will be tasked with managing the algorithms that manage the people.
Managing the algorithms that manage the people. Wow.
Yeah.
That completely redefines the nature of enterprise leadership.
It really does. It forces you to look at your own organization tomorrow morning and ask, are we actually building the factory of the future, or are we just strapping a Formula One engine onto a wooden wagon and hoping the wheels don't fly off?
The structural shift is absolutely inevitable. The only question is whether your architecture will be ready to handle the torque.
On that incredibly challenging but exciting note, we are going to wrap up. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the realities of management in a Gen AI world. Take a hard look at those line shafts and belts in your office this week, and we will see you next time.